Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Scotty Shaw, and it's day 14 of 40 Days of K. And today's word is empathy. And um, this is something I didn't understand for a very long time. I'm not sure if kids really understand empathy, but if I if kids did, then um, definitely from 13 until 22, 23, um, almost when I was almost 22, I guess, before I really experienced or learned empathy. And if kids don't understand empathy, then I probably didn't really know what it was until I was 22. And unfortunately, um, a lot of it comes from um, experiencing empathy. Well, being able to empathize comes from having experienced empathy. So it's not really something to think about too much, but um, that's just how it is for me. And I think some of it is um, there's also different ways to experience or explain empathy. Uh, Coach K starts off saying of empathy, the ability to walk in another person's shoes. And I don't think I was able to do that until my first long term relationship. Before that, at the least for, definitely for 9 years, um, I didn't really, or I guess 8 years, I didn't really get to experience much empathy, if any. Uh, so, I didn't understand that people talk about walking in another person's shoes. Um, I guess I just viewed it as seeing things from someone's perspective. But then to feel what the other person is feeling, uh, definitely didn't have that until towards the end of college. And I think that probably explains, I mentioned before my lack of balance in life, struggles to connect with people sometimes, um, why I become so goal oriented because just in general in my life, uh, from 13 on, most of it was just I just had to figure stuff out on my own. I had to do stuff all on my own. Um, just in general, that's how life was. So, um, one of the fingers on Coach K's fist is trust, and he says here, if someone believes that you can identify with their situation and understand their feelings, they are more apt to trust you, which leads to faster responses to situations and better conclusions. Outside of a team, when you're just talking about emotions and all that, the thing for me is I just didn't really have anyone I could trust between 13 and Duke. I didn't feel like anyone cared about my situation, what I had to do, where I was trying to get, my goals. It was just very much I had to do this and then I had to do that. And I could tell very quickly that um, my high school, just the high school I went to, just was not gonna. It was just it was just a waste of time, honestly. Um, it wasn't challenging at all. It was very stagnant. I had no interest in what was going on. Um, most of the people, that's just how it was. Like I said before, I think to some degree, a lot of people knew that um, they probably knew in the back of their minds that I wasn't really going to stay around anyways, and I knew that, but that's just what happened. It wasn't really my choice. It just happened. So it's definitely something that I did not understand for a long time. Uh, didn't get to experience it for a long time, and um, I think sometimes people just don't care. They just don't want to try, and that's it. Nothing I can do about it. I don't really bother with it. I just do what I can for me, the people on my ride, because what else am I supposed to do? If someone doesn't care, they don't want to have empathy. If no one's taking time to teach me empathy, empathize with me. Growing up, it was just all right. I got to do my thing. That's it. Just move on. So I remember the first time reading this when Coach K talked about what happened was in this story. He talks about his oldest daughter Debbie um, told him an amazing thing that Coach K taught her how to empathize. And the moment came from Debbie had just come home from Duke after breaking up with a longtime boyfriend. It was a really rough breakup, and she was heartbroken, completely heartbroken, just wrecked. And so she talked to Miss Shashevsky or Mickey. Honestly, I'm not even sure. Should I call her Mrs. Shashevsky or Mickey, Mrs. K? But anyways, talked to her mom, and for hours, and went to bed just emotionally drained, exhausted. And the first thing she remembers, apparently, she said that the first thing she remembers after that is waking up with me sitting on the bed next to her and gently patting her back. When she turned to look at me, I was crying too. Dad, what's wrong? She asked. I replied, I just feel so sad for you. It was true. Her heartbreak was my heartbreak too. That's what makes us a family and the greatest of teams. For a person to know that someone else understands their feelings really validates those feelings. Once acknowledged or validated, the person has a greater chance of moving on to something better instead of being a prisoner of that particular feeling. And I remember the first time I read that, I was like, I have no idea what this means. It just makes no sense to me. It's not my breakup. Why would I be crying? Not that I didn't care. I recognized that it meant something to her and that loss was painful. But just for me, the idea that I would feel what the other person is feeling just made no sense to me. And um, it's interesting that it's interesting that's how it was for me because listening to music, growing up playing piano, winning awards and stuff. Um, I taught myself guitar. Um, I'd make up my own variations of stuff. I would, just Christmas time, I would hop on the piano and just make up my own flourishes and just mess around casually. And from there, listening to music, I guess I just never realized that music, or I guess I knew music could transmit emotions and stuff. You can, if you feel nervous listening to music, that's because the performer is nervous and they're showing it. And I guess I just never realized that was a form of empathy. But at least for me, when it came to, I felt a certain way about something. Um, definitely just no one cared. So for me, there was a lot of just I just had to do things on my own, and then when people are upset, I just don't understand. It's like, well, great, you're upset. I'm not. I know I need to give you space or something, but I don't know what's going on. And a lot of it was because no one really ever cared about how I felt, never took time. And so for me, very much, I remember in high school thinking all the time I was literally running on fumes. So it was interesting, saying for Coach K to say Debbie was emotionally exhausted. I remember just thinking, okay, well that was me for years. Where I understand now, it was more I just wasn't in an environment where I was getting the acknowledgement or validation emotionally, um, and as opposed to a greater chance of moving on to something better. Um, for me, it was just relying on just knowing there was a better future for me, and I would get there because I'm super smart. I can figure stuff out, and from there I can get into a great school, which turned out to be Duke. And you know, it was just for years. It was um, I was really just treading water, I guess. Um, just staying above the quicksand. So I definitely, yeah, I had no idea what this is talking about. Where now reading this, it makes more sense now because um, and I'm still amazed that this ever happened to me. But I think the first time I actually understood empathy, um, I want to say it was at the end of fall semester senior year. I had been dating a girl for, it was about getting close to, it was probably 5.5 months by then. And this was a girl that I had fallen in love with pretty quickly. Um, we had connected pretty quickly. We had very similar sense of humor, a lot of similar interests, very driven. A couple of things that stood out to me was that she was also very team oriented. Did her thing for her team. Did her thing for her team in high school. Um, got recruited to play college sports, and then ended up playing for Duke at the club level. And um, just in general, wanting to excel at everything. And for me, it was just one of those things where, for me, I just felt like here is someone that would actually understand a lot of what I'm talking about in life, a lot of what I care about. And I guess for me, um, it was just kind of crazy thinking, wait, there's someone that I connect with in so many ways, and she's actually uh, not, she's actually single, and then she actually is interested in me, and I felt like here's someone who actually cares to get to know how I feel, my perspective, why I might approach things very differently from anyone I knew. And uh, I think it speaks to the challenge she faced. The fact that before her, no one had ever been able to understand a lot of what I felt, a lot of what I was going through, and she actually took time and effort to do so and was able to. And I don't even realize when or how, but at some point, I started to connect in that same way with her. I'm not entirely sure when, because it started off with just here's someone fun to hang out with, and then eventually, or I guess it started off with, well, actually, I guess I didn't really notice that. I thought, I mean, she's really cute and stuff, but I guess I just didn't notice that because for me, what caught my attention was the kind of person she is. And then, um, she's a lot of fun. And then I started eventually started noticing she's actually really pretty and cute, and um, really love her smile and her eyes, and I guess, well, and her hair. And then I guess eventually I started to realize, wait, there's more to this than just, I think she's a good person, and I like seeing her. I like looking at her. I guess it was probably, um, I guess maybe it was 3, 2 months into dating, when I guess she first started to understand to some degree how I felt about things. Long story short, I basically said, hey, I'm okay if you don't feel this way yet, but um, I feel like I always want to be on your team. I never want to be on the opposite side of the court, and basically just told her how I felt, not about her, but um, I guess how I always wanted to be on her side, and I always wanted her to be on my side. It was something like that, and then basically just said, "Hey, look, you don't have to tell me this back, but I know right now I already do love you." And I think um, she told me she wasn't ready, but then I think that probably was also the start of her realizing that I was actually much lonelier, very much more on my own than it seemed. Um, because by then I definitely, more than 8 years of just being used to, I just have to do everything on my own. So it, I'm not gonna go and let on that life is hard because this is normal for me. So I think from there until the 5.5 month mark, where I was talking about, she was able to, more and more understand and see things from my point of view, and I would say that's probably how things went because um, about 2 months after that, well, no, I guess for the first few weeks after that, I remember she would show up to the stuff I was doing for work. I was working for the Duke football team, and she would actually show up to the games. And I remember thinking, why the games? Team wasn't very good at the time. It's kind of boring, but she would stay and stuff, and she would talk to other people, try to understand football better, and it had nothing to do with what I did for the team, but I guess just stuff like that. I was just kind of, I didn't get it either. I didn't realize that was empathy. I was just kind of, well, I appreciate you coming by and stuff. But okay, cool, whatever. Um, you know, I just thought you don't have to do that, but she did. And then got to her birthday at the end of October, and I put together this whole week of surprises for her. Stuff, took her out to dinner. Um, there's a dress that she really liked, and I was able to track down what it was and got it for her. Um, and just in general, you know, throwing together a whole lot of surprises for her that whole week. And I guess she figured out from that I really like being surprised in a good way. And um, so what happened was I forgot why, but there was some kind of bonfire in the Duke Forest. So I took her and a couple people over, drove them over, and then um, one her best friend said, "Well, her stomach's not feeling good. Can we go back?" I was like, "Okay, well, hey, we gotta, yeah, we gotta head back and stuff." So, um, and then it turned out this was them trying to divert me so my friends would have time to get into this room and stuff. Anyways, so her friend was like, "Yeah, maybe I just need some food or something." I can't remember exactly, but so he stopped by, grabbed some food for her, just making sure she's feeling okay and everything. And then we got back, um, and we got back to this room, and it turned out, she had put together a surprise birthday party for me, and I was like, um, I was amazed. It was like, wait, someone cares, like, because I was used to people just didn't care about my birthday, and I was just used to, people would forget stuff like that, and just out of nowhere, here's this party for me. I was just amazed, and uh, kind of I think this shows how out of touch I was. Um, I was still asking, "Hey, is your friend okay?" And she's like, "What? No, she's fine. No, that was our way of getting you away from the bonfire, so you wouldn't notice people were coming in preparing for your party." I was like, "Oh, wow. Wait, we don't have to check on her?" It's like, "No, no. It was just we just wanted to throw a party for you." I was like, "Wow, no one's ever done this stuff for me." And um, unfortunately, even my own parents had forgotten my birthday before. So for me, that was something really special. And we're not in touch anymore, but that's there's a lot of things she did for me for the first time no one had ever done, and that's a lot of stuff I'll always remember. But then the biggest thing is the first time I actually could feel what she felt in a sense. It's not quite the same, I guess, but it was in the end of fall semester. We're flying from North Carolina up to her parents' place. I was gonna spend a few days there before Christmas break, or for Christmas break, and I don't remember if she was sick before the plane ride or what. But basically, I think I mean it was after final, so she probably had something, just like anyone. But or maybe it was motion sickness. I think it was motion sickness. But yeah, the plane was about to land, and she just wasn't feeling good at all. And I didn't feel sick myself, but um, I felt just completely helpless because it was the first time in our whole relationship where there was nothing I could do for her. Throw a surprise or figure out information for her or drive her somewhere. And it was just one of those things I felt completely helpless. And yeah, I guess it's kind of like here where Coach K, he's crying over his daughter having, her heartbreak was his heartbreak. Where for me, as opposed to, um, my girlfriend at the time, as opposed to her feeling sick, I feel sick. It was more she felt miserable, and I felt kind of a kind of misery, I guess. Just thinking the whole time, I wish there was anything I could have done to help her, and feeling hopeless because there's nothing I could have done. And I actually started crying a bit too. And when she looked up at me at the end, um, she I guess she was kind of confused because 5.5 months I was just this more or less emotionless, just get stuff done. Got to take care of this person, take care of that person, got to achieve, and suddenly, I'm crying over something, and she was just like, well, what, are you okay? Why are you crying? And I just said, I felt helpless. I was watching you and couldn't do anything other than just hold you and hope you're okay. And yeah, it was just one of those things. I think that was probably the first time I could actually feel what someone else felt in some way. And that yeah, that wasn't the start of us really connecting. You know, we had a lot of other previous experiences, and we continued to work on our relationship with each other for the months to come, and then eventually. just long distance. Unfortunately, things didn't work out. Um, but reading this, talking about the story, it really makes sense. Part of being on any team, and a family team in particular, is trying to truly understand what each of your teammates is going through. If you feel true empathy, it can be a beautiful thing. Their difficult times become your difficult times, and likewise, their successes become your successes. Either way, your collective moments become better, less sad, or more celebratory. Someone else feels what you feel. It is not about each of us individually, but rather all of us together. Empathy brings your group closer together by allowing all members of the group to feel as if all of their feelings are truly a shared experience. And I can say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, she was the first person who showed me any empathy and did that continuously and put a lot of effort into it to the point that I ever broke out of that cold, emotionless, just that's just how life is. I need to just become extremely successful and influential before anyone cares. And uh, that's definitely set a tone in my life. People who um, people who spend time and effort helping me when I'm new at something, or just when I feel like why would they want to help me, and especially to the extent that some people have. That really set a tone in my life. You know, I'm always keeping an eye out for those kinds of people. Not to say that, not to say that I have to have that person be my, uh, guardian angel or just something like that. But I think just in general, being able to say that's uh, that's the kind of person that I want to have in my life in general, and be able to uh, once I reach a certain point, to be able to give back. So, um, it's a very short essay, less than 2 pages, but it's such a powerful story, for Coach K, that the love of a father for a child, in this case his oldest daughter. Um, I didn't understand the story for a long time. The first time I read this book was before I dated anyone. Um, but every time I read this, I'm able to look back on that girl and remember what she meant to me and what I meant to her, how we felt about each other and for each other. And for me personally, uh, it, that she showed me so much. There was so much more to life than I had ever known or realized, and that is, we haven't been in touch in years, but that's something that only she could have done for me. And the fact is, she put a lot of time and effort into it. She suffered through a lot of it, and to some extent, for some length of time, I was able to give that back to her, and hopefully in in some amazing ways too. So empathy is definitely something that I've never had much of in my life, never got to experience much of it, but I definitely agree with Coach K, where when he says, if you feel true empathy, it can be a beautiful thing. I definitely agree. It's something that something I wish I had more of in my life, but that, like I said, that's just how it is. As opposed to how I used to say it, meaning that's life. What am I supposed to do? Ask for more, complain about it? Now it's something that I I'm chasing, something I want to have again. And it's a feeling I will never forget, and it's an experience I will never forget, and a person I will always be grateful to, no matter what. So, yeah, that's empathy. Day 14, 40 Days of K. Tomorrow, I expect, will be a lot of fun because the word tomorrow is something I've always had a lot of, and that word is enthusiasm. So, take it easy. I'll see you tomorrow.